York County is so much more than just a stop for gas on I-80. 17 County is filled with unique individuals with unique stories just waiting to be told. Welcome to the 17 County Podcast with your host, Emily Perry.
This is 17 County Podcast. Thank you for tuning in for today's episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, and listen. This helps our podcast grow, and we thank you for your continued support. We would also like to take the time to thank our York County Development Corporation members, Agri-Products, Cornerstone Bank, Nebraska Public Power District, and Central Valley Ag. Without these great members, we wouldn't be able to focus on the growth and development of York County here at the YCDC. So thank you. Let's get to the podcast. Today, we welcome Jill Swartzendruber to the podcast. Jill is the Marketing and Member Manager for the York Chamber of Commerce. Jill has had some really interesting experience with a unique journey that has led her to York, Nebraska in her current position. And I am so excited to get to chat with you today. So I guess we'll just get right into the interview portion. So where are you from? You're from the Nebraska rural community area, right?
I am. So I am from Shickley, which is about 40 minutes south and a little west of York. If anybody knows where Geneva is, that's the Fillmore County seat, and then Shickley is in the Fillmore County area. So yeah, I grew up there. My family, both sets of grandparents were, raised there too. So a lot of family in that area.
Yeah, absolutely. So what did your parents do? They owned their own business?
Yeah. So my dad and his brothers owned a construction and flooring business for a little over 50 years, and they just retired a couple of years ago. And then my mom actually worked in the bank all through my schooling, and then she would do their bookkeeping. And then finally, she decided to help out as they went into the flooring more, and she did sales and then the bookkeeping part of it. So, yeah. They all kind of retired at the same time then.
Yeah, awesome. Isn't that nice? Yeah,
it
is. So I take it you probably grew up working in the flooring and
yeah. So fortunately, they didn't do the flooring portion of it until I was out of college. Well, actually, just in college when we kind of went. The guys were getting a little older, and so the construction wasn't working as well with their bodies.
Right.
And that kind of thing. So plus it works well with the construction portion of it, but they had kind of done some flooring before, but then they really got into it when I was in college. No, I was, I have two brothers, and then there are two cousins that are all male. And so they all got to start very young, like with roofing during the summers and that kind of thing. Fortunately, I did not have to do that part.
Nice.
But yes, I did. My parents my dad and one of his brothers had rental houses, so I got to paint in the summer.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was not fun.
Especially when it's hot.
Yes, and then one of their rental houses was actually a daycare. So about when I was 15, 16, I started working at the daycare. So,
okay.
Yeah.
You did all these odd jobs.
Yes.
Graduated high school, I'm assuming.
I did, yes.
And then what was it like after that? Did you go to college?
Yeah.
What was that transition like?
So then, So I went, and I just started in CCC in Hastings. And I was actually still working at the daycare at that point. I had moved up to do the payroll and the scheduling and that kind of thing, helping buy the food for the menus and all that. And so I went to CCC and I majored in business management and then minored in marketing. Kind of decided to go more towards the marketing at that point, but like the management portion of it. So worked as I went through college, got an internship at the college and worked in their marketing department for the last half year, my college career there. Got my associate's degree, and then I actually started working at the city of Geneva as a deputy city clerk. Because I was like, I don't want to go on to get my bachelor's. Well, then after a couple of years there, I'm like, yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So then I did about a year in Hastings College, and then my credits actually transferred better over to Doane. So then I finished my bachelor's at Doane.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm a Doane graduate too. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Awesome.
So then, I graduated with my bachelor's and again in business administration and minor in marketing. And that went well. Because then they said, they're like, so do you want to go to your master's? And I'm like, no.
I'm done.
I really don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah, I get that. So you graduate. Mm-hmm. And then what was your job experience like?
During that last part of college, I was doing I was helping. My uncle's actually a mechanic from Shickley, and so I was helping with the bookkeeping. I was doing a little babysitting, and then also helping with the flooring at the same time. So it was kind of insane. My family, we're kind of workaholics. So as you can see, it's crazy. But no, then I went and actually got a job at the chamber in Geneva as the executive director. One of the main financial sponsors at that time had just passed away, and the lady that had been doing it as the director for many years decided she was going to help her family business at that time, and so I took over that December I graduated. Yeah, it went fairly well. They kind of had, it was kind of a hard deal at that point because there was some conflict with some of the projects that were going on and with the main financial donor passing away. So it was a little tricky to kind of get into that whole dynamic. But fortunately, then about a year after, the city of Geneva actually offered me a full-time position that would mix the events that the chamber was doing, and then I would also work for them, which eventually went into me becoming the city clerk and treasurer, plus doing some of the events on the side.
Oh, man.
Which was a lot, and eventually the events, other people took those over. But so then I was there for about 7 years.
Okay.
And then I got a job offer to be the finance manager at Willa Cather Foundation in Red Cloud. So I moved down there.
Wow.
I did that, yeah.
What was that like? Because that's very touristy. Right?
It is. So going from like a political world, local politics, as many people that have been involved in that know that can be kind of insane. So which was it was a healthy switch because the nonprofit, I always thought that doing a job, I wanted to do something that mattered. Like I was making some kind of a change in the world. And so like the nonprofit world, learned a ton. And the Cather Foundation and the National Willa Cather Center now, it's amazing because Red Cloud, you think it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, which it kind of is. However, they've created like this insane world of history and grew the town. Like now while I was there they were doing a campaign to restore some of the houses, the buildings, and her house, Willa Cather's house, because it had been needed it for a while. And then they added on a boutique hotel that they're putting in downtown. So they have a great team of people down there that are just so much progress. So that was really exciting to be a part of. And then because I had the city experience, I also sat on the sales tax and use committee down there because they were talking about how they could use the sales tax funds from all the tourists that come to town. Because usually before COVID, they would get about 10,000 visitors a year down there, which is insane.
Yeah. A
lot of that was during the summer. So it's like we need to capture that and use that in order to progress the town in general. So it was interesting and fun. And I met a ton of different people from all over. Like there are people from Japan and Germany. They'll just stop in, and it's so insane because even like somebody from Kansas once stopped in, heard my name, and are like, "Oh, are you related to this person?" And it's like, "Well, yes, from Shickley." I mean, it was
Small world.
It is. It's so crazy, and actually, the one time we would get pretty movie star kind of people. We got Paul Giamatti.
Wow.
The one time I got to meet him, and he stopped in and just wanted to visit. He always liked her writing and wanted to come, and he had a picnic on the prairie. So it was pretty cool. But he was a very nice man. But just that kind of stuff. They've met, fairly famous people just through the writing and through the love of her writing. So, and I love history, so I always thought that it was very interesting. But I also learned a lot on the financial side with the nonprofit world. So the government accounting is actually fairly opposite from your regular nonprofit and business accounting. So I kind of had to relearn that. So it was, my debits and credits were opposite because of how government accounting and that accounting is. So it was a good learning experience.
Right.
But just in general. And then we also had the Opera House that's connected to the National Willa Cather Center. And so we have regular programs there. So I helped with the event part of that too. So very good experience. Great living down there. It was great. Good people to work with too.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, it always shocks me some of the stuff that's in small town Nebraska, you
Right?
know, it's like, what?
and
People
see-
are here for this? What?
Exactly. And I think that was always the thing that I said as we were working with the sales tax portion and that of trying to progress. And like I said, Jared McCarthy's down there with the tourism. Ashley Olsen's who was my boss. She sits on a lot of the committees. They are so forward thinking. And I'm like, when you go into some of the council members that were like, oh, we don't need to do this. We just want to stay with what we have. And it's like, you have a gold mine that you need to capture, and your community will only be better from it. So it's so neat. You can see a dynamic of the small town like setting and the mindset to when you have something like that, you need to really grab onto it. So it was an interesting learning experience.
Man.
Yeah.
And I guess I never thought about it with the government financial stuff versus nonprofit. I mean, financial is financial.
Well,
right?
No, seriously, because when I was talking about, you still do chart accounting and that kind of thing, which, okay, great. So we can do that in your codes and you're coding your bills. But then as we were talking, I'm like, okay, I kind of got to go backwards and relearn what I just did because, government accounting is kind of like, it's a bank accounting. So your debits and credits are like a bank. So it's like, okay, after you do that for 6-7 years, you're like, I got this. And, I did the stuff with bonds and that kind of thing. So it kind of carries over. But then as we're going and learning the nonprofit, I'm like, okay, my debits and credits are not the same.
This is all different.
But it took, again, great learning experience. They actually had gotten into a TIF project to do the National Willa Cather Center. I actually lived in the apartments above because they put in apartments and an Airbnb up there. So again, very progressive.
Yeah.
But because like every community, housing was a big deal. And when you get an influx of tourism at certain times of the year, they did not have places to keep them so they were always trying to think of, and this is where the boutique hotel came in, but they were always trying to think of different options to do that. So when they redid this National Willa Cather Center, they redid about 5 or 6 stalls, if you will, buildings that all connected. Red Cloud Opera House was on the one side, and then it kind of kept going. And they did apartments above, and so it was TIFFed. And so I also got into kind of that accounting part of it too and learned a ton. Geneva was getting started with a TIFF project when I left for the plant down there. It was interesting, but I was on the opposite side of it. So you had like 5 accounts just for the TIFF project down at Red Cloud. I was managing the different ones. We were taking in rent for different ones. You really had, the end of the year was insane. So just like I said, I learned a ton.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
And okay, so you're at Red Cloud. You choose to come back home?
Yeah. So, after a few years, we and COVID kind of changed some stuff too.
Right.
Actually, during COVID, we had to close.
Oh, shoot.
And fortunately, we usually have a huge conference that a lot of people come to in June, but we did it online. So that was a huge, huge adjustment. And the education director there at the time, Tracy Tucker, and then Ashley and our leadership team did an amazing job because we got an app. We sent out care packages to do it at your house. It was amazing. But that was a huge adjustment because we were like, financially, how are we going to do this? Fortunately, with donors and some fundraising, it worked. But it kind of got my mindset changing of, and I had some personal things with some family members that were ill. And I'm like, maybe it wouldn't be bad to get a little closer. So that's when, I moved back and, got the job here at the chamber and
the rest is history,
I guess.
So right now you are the marketing and member manager for the chamber, right?
That is correct. Yes. So I started part-time, and that was in fall of 2021. And, just being closer, I lived in Shickley at the time. I'm on the rescue unit there. My family, my nieces are in Geneva. So it was so nice after being gone for the 3 years at Cather to be just back with a family. And like I said, COVID kind of changed my mindset in general with that. So I did that. It kind of helped. My parents were going into the retirement stage at that point, found a buyer, and so helped them kind of get through that. And so that part was great. And so then about midsummer last year, Madonna asked if I wanted to go more full-time hours. And so, I agreed to that, and it's worked out fairly well.
Yeah. And had the opportunity to work with you for a little bit.
Yes,
So
I liked
not far away now, but
it was fun. You're fun to work with, but yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
It's amazing. And some of the stuff that between Madonna and you and now Sarah,
yeah,
some of the stuff you guys do with 3-person staff
insane.
is just, it blows my mind. It's crazy.
It is crazy. And I think that's the thing where it's like, that's a community-based thing again. And like I said, I always thought it would be important to do something with my life that you could show that you're hopefully trying to make a difference at least. And so, yeah, it is insane of what can happen with a short amount time usually and staff. But Madonna has a nice layout of the organization in general of how we do throughout the year. So as you know, we meet in November, kind of have a staff meeting type day, that retreat that we kind of go over every one of the events and every educational program or what we want to see different this year, have a plan, go to the board with it, and then kind of work backwards, I guess, from a schedule. So no, at this point, yeah, it's May, but I've been working on Sip and Stroll, which is in September, to York Fest, which is in September. You know, we're always about 4 to 5 months ahead of schedule, which to me kind of helps because yes, there's last minute push for stuff, but you know kind of going into it where you're at. So put to bed balloon days, except for some scheduling stuff, you know, your July midsummer thing. And York Fest is actually really good on its way with the schedule. Yeah.
Oh,
so
man. It's a big undertaking.
It is, but it only helps, to market it and, you know, just be ahead of the game with how you do that. So
right. And I mean, I feel like the community really supports some of those events with York Fest. And
York Fest is huge.
Yeah. People love it.
It is. And I think anytime, and Red Cloud was the same way, Geneva was the same way. You have, and Shickley is very, like, that's how I grew up. Like, you volunteer, you put yourself back into the community. And so one thing with Geneva, I didn't see that as much. And I don't know if it was the size of the town. They liked to be a part, but it wasn't as, like, you can about ask anybody and they will help you. That's kind of what Shickley and Red Cloud are. But they're a little smaller, too.
Right.
But York, there is, like, a certain amount of people that will totally just drop everything. And it's so crazy because it's bigger, but you still have like a small town feel and small town. And I no matter what I do, I'm still that mindset. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people within our community have a lot of pride in our community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just like, yeah, this is my home and it's great and I want to keep it that way. So.
And they will do whatever. And I love that because, again, I didn't know how that would be in a bigger town like this. But no, you got like several big groups that are totally into doing whatever it takes. And I respect that because I think that's why you can have a progressive community.
Absolutely. Yeah.
As you guys know, too, as with what you're in. I mean, the Development Corporation, same. You guys are you're very dedicated, and I think that's what it takes.
Yeah. You need to be. I mean, that's just how small towns keep going. And,
yep. Exactly. And I do think that even the people you can see that are moving back, even if they have some jobs that are remote or they drive for work that may be in a city sometimes, they want to raise their families in the small towns.
Yes.
So, and I see that. I mean, I think that is my brothers both live in small towns too. And that has always been, I don't know, maybe it's ingrained in us. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
I'm Don Freeman II. I'm president and CEO of Agri Products in York, Nebraska. We are a manufacturer of quality equipment, grain handling, food storage, food service. And if you ever want to get a hold of us, you can get on our website or you can contact us at 402-362-5500. Thank you.
Even from personal experience, I lived in Lincoln, so not really a big town, but for Nebraska, it's semi-big, right? But I lived there for a while, and I was like, when I moved away, I was like, I'm never coming back. Like,
right.
I grew up there. Why would I go back there, you know?
Yes.
And then I actually grew up, and I'm like, I think it's time. I want to be around my family, and raising a family in a small town is just,
Isn't it just amazing?
It's safe and there's good educational opportunity. And
When you can, at any time you could call about a handful of people and they'll just drop everything and help. And I think that was always the thing that even being in Red Cloud, I walked in and like I had that. Like they made you feel like you were one of them without any question.
Yeah.
But it was also nice to then come back, and Shickley is very progressive for a size of town, but my church is also, and that's been very important.
Yeah.
And just helping with my nieces and being close to them has been amazing. So yeah, like the small town atmosphere.
yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, well, I mean, and not to like brag on our office building, but it's also from, I guess for me, it's really amazing to be able to bring my kids here. And
Yeah.
I probably won't see them until I'm leaving because Madonna will be playing with them.
Right.
Or Lisa will be trying to
As do
entertain
I.
them. Or, yeah, you'll be carrying them around. And I don't feel uncomfortable with that. You know, it's
No.
completely comfortable.
Oh
and
yeah, that has been very good. It's just like, yeah, you if you need something, Madonna has always said that she'll drop anything and help you.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, Sarah's kids have been here off and on too, and yeah, we'll sure chat while they're there. Let's color. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
it's a family atmosphere, and that was kind of what Red Cloud was too. You had more of that, and I that is appealing to me. It's
Yeah.
not maybe everybody, but to me that is, because it's just like you're a team. You're there for a good cause, and you do care about each other.
Yeah.
And I do think that is a very important thing for any employer to maybe kind of look at. It's not, you don't have to be all touchy-feely,
Right.
close.
Right.
But as you know, I'm not one for icebreakers and that kind of thing. So,
Right?
but I do know what it's like to be in an unknown place, not know anyone or have anyone close that you do know, and feel completely comfortable and welcomed. And that,
Yeah.
and Red Cloud and York has done that too. And I do have some family. My aunt does live in town, and with Madonna, I have met other people too.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's been good.
Awesome. And you recently moved to York.
I did.
So now
I did. Now
you're
I'm
stuck.
in. I'm in. Yeah. I was being patient and, looking for the right fit, and I found it, and good landlord. And so, yeah, it was good. It was good. And I can still keep up with what I have in the Fillmore County area because it's fairly close. So, yeah, again, good community, good businesses, lots to do. I know people are always like, what do you do in York? Or what do you do? It's like,
Well,
you can actually be very involved and just look around a bit, and
yeah.
you can find things. So there's stuff to do like crazy.
Yeah, all the time. All the time. So you help, obviously, with lots and lots of events and lunch and learns and educational opportunities. Do you have a favorite?
Oh, that's a good question. I really like Sip and Stroll.
That one's a fun one.
And it's just because of the atmosphere. Everybody's happy.
That's exactly right.
You know?
Everyone's happy, and all
not
the
that-
business community is just...
It's
amazing.
It's just, and not that most of the events are happy, but it's one of those things that it's like, it's not one thing. It's not one thing. It's just that everybody's just like, this is a good time and welcoming, and the business store, a lot of them have their doors open, and it's just a walk in, have a treat, and shop a little or visit with people. We, even our members have said, they're like, this is such a fun event that if anything, I can see more people and chat with them. And, and just get out. And thankfully, knock on wood, we've had really good weather the last 2 years that I've been involved in it. And so it's just like the downtown itself is just like a nice environment to just stroll about. And, last year we added music tents to some of our young musicians in town. And it was such a fun atmosphere. People just have fun.
Yeah.
And it's not, like, if you don't drink, it's not a big deal because they have options, to just go grab. A lot of them have fun punch or,
or food.
The food. I was going to say the food, if anything, is amazing.
Yes.
Our members really get into it, and they just do a fun job. I think that's what amazed me the most of how much they get into it.
I know.
I was like, this is so cool. I mean, some decorate, some, I mean, like Wagner's he has a bar thing he puts up. I was just like, this is so fun. So I think that's probably one of my favorite events in general, just because, like I said, everybody's just happy.
Just having a good time, relaxing, and much needed.
It is. And just, like I said, our members, everybody's just, it's a good time. So, but York Fest is also very fun.
Yes. York Fest is fun, but as
insane.
a parent, it is a different beast. Like,
Yeah,
there's just so much. And
there's
I
so
mean,
much,
that's a good thing,
It
absolutely.
is.
But man,
no, and it's
people
a big
are crazy about
undertaking.
it.
I mean, Madonna has done really great at working with, especially nonprofits in our community, and a lot of the nonprofits, but even other businesses that are just like, I would like to host this event, and we'll just promote it, and we'll add it to our schedule, and she even has like given them donation afterwards of some of the funds that we've come in to just support them, especially the nonprofits that are helping. Like the Boy Scouts are always a huge one with the funnel truck, and we have free popcorn by Union Bank. But even like the family fun night at the library is always great. Deb is amazing. So they have event. We host it out there. The farmers market does a great job, and then the inflatables, and it's just, I don't know. It's a great way to do it. So the chamber isn't taking the full responsibility, because it gets too much for the amount of staff we have. So it's like, this is a great way for our nonprofits especially to just get in the community, maybe raise some money, but also just promote and say, we're here too, and we care about the community in general. So that's always a fun one. The parade's always a fun event. It's so a huge parade too.
It is. I mean,
it's big.
I marched in it in high school, and then I got to see it as an adult, and I'm like, oh man,
Good
the
times.
memories,
Good
they just keep coming. No, it is a lot of fun, and I think that for people that are looking to move to the area, or maybe move their business to the area, whatever the case may be, York Fest is one of the really good examples of the community coming together to provide something that just not only helps their business, but enhances quality of life in the area.
Oh, I completely agree. And I think that's, like, if you look at a lot of the events that Chamber does, or educational programming in general, and you guys do kind of the same thing, it's one of those that it's like, when you really sit back and look, if I am thinking about moving to York, or I'm looking at a job here, kids, no matter what, it's like, this is a nice community to just be involved in and live in it, because there are so many good things to do, activities, events, but just the community support, you can totally tell. But if you want to volunteer, there is a huge list.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you're interested in personal development, there's the ability to grow within the community, whether that be in your job or personally or whatever. Yeah. It's big, and I don't think a lot of smaller communities have that.
You're right.
It's a point of pride for us, but it's amazing.
No, that's a very good point, because you don't always think about, and it doesn't cost a ton of money, but you don't always think about, like, you can still grow and learn and do great, even if you have little kids, or even if you are single and just working and trying to make ends meet. There's a lot of opportunities that your employer will usually just say, go for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, because you always need to be learning and trying new things. And like I said, just even with what you saw with what I've worked through, the experience is huge.
Yeah, it really is.
It can really help you in your life in general. So I do find that to be very valuable in a community.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to wrap things up, I think that we have kind of done this, and you've kind of done this entire podcast, but what would you say to someone that was looking to move to, like, promote it? So let's say you're giving a sales pitch or something like that. Why York? Why York County?
Sure. No, that's a good question too, because, after what we kind of talked about, and after experiencing now the move too, is if you want a community that is just like what you picture as a good backing, good base for raising kids, but for just feeling safe and at home. York is a good one to do that. Like I said, there's tons of volunteer opportunities, job opportunities. The school system is great. The public school, and then we have a number of, private. Our college is amazing. The campus is beautiful, and they've done such a great job there. Business-wise, you can get about anything you want and more. Unique stores, your tried and true. And you can even see it in some of those long-standing businesses. It's like, you've been here, you're here for a reason, and you can trust people. Yeah. And I think if you've lived in a city or a bigger community for a while, you get kind of jaded.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's completely true.
Yeah. And so it's like, York is one of those that it's like, it's a little bit bigger, but like I said, you still have that safe community. Find some friends, find a good church, be involved. Young professionals is another one. You can be involved in civic groups like crazy and just, find your niche. It's easier to do it here, I think.
Absolutely. Well, I guess we'll wrap up. Thank you so much for being willing to last minute hop in here and do a podcast.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. And I enjoyed learning more about you and your experiences. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
In closing, we would like to once again take the time to thank our members, the people that help us drive change. We would like to thank York State Bank, Henderson State Bank, York General, Meade Lumber Company Incorporated, and York News Times. And thank you, our listeners, for tuning in. Catch you next time.